coming up in 2023, when you get this diagnosis, what is your thought process at that point when the doctor comes back to you with the news?
When I went to my urologist, I never imagined that this was something that was going to come out of my doctor's mouth. You have cancer. So I was there by myself. I wasn't expecting a diagnosis. I wasn't there with my wife. I think that was a very difficult thing to navigate. And when I first heard my doctor say it's cancer, my initial thought when he said it's cancer is I said, this is not going to kill me. This is not going to kill me.
Listen, we have another phenomenal guest, a person who has took the music industry by storm, the legendary Montell Jordan.
All Talk Oncology. Good to be in the building with you, man.
Hello. This is Kenny Perkins, aka your cancer guy. And listen, as I always say, once again, we have another phenomenal guest. Now, I need you to understand who our next guest is. We talking about music and a person who has took the music industry by storm. His songs, you probably know, we still sing them today. This is how we do it. Those songs are never going to go.
I love your commitment right
there.
Come
on, man. Come on.
Sorry. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Come on.
I appreciate that.
Come on. Listen, God didn't give me the voice to sing, but he did give me the voice to motivate and inspire individuals. And I hope that I'm able to inspire you with our next guest, because he had a journey and dealing with cancer, but his view, his perspective on how he moves about is amazing. And that's what we want to capture. And that's what I want you guys to benefit today. So please give me the honor of bringing in our next guest, the legendary Montell Jordan. Montell.
What's good? All Talk Oncology. Good to be in the building with you, man.
Oh, man, it's an honor. And we're going to jump right into it, Montell. You are an individual who has been in the music industry. You have seen a lot. You have done a lot. You have worked with so many phenomenal artists. Being a phenomenal artist yourself, you just attract that. Tell us a little bit about Montell prior to being diagnosed.
Montell prior to being diagnosed, a husband, father, friend, minister, R&B recording artist, Grammy Award winner, honorary doctorate guy, just a kid that was brought up in South Central Los Angeles, California, 4th Avenue in Slauson, made it out the hood from my upbringing in gospel and Christian music that led me out to Pepperdine University. I studied communications, minored in business, and before trying to go into corporate America, I took a shot at the music business and had a song that came out in 1995 on Def Jam Records that would be now considered one of the greatest top 100 party anthems of the last century. So I'm grateful to have had that opportunity to contribute something to the musical fabric of our world. And in that journey, I learned that music does not define me, but I define music. And that was the journey of me going from ministry into the music business and then back into ministry, and now having my foot in between those two places of performing and ministering both inside and outside of church spaces. And all of that led me pretty much to the journey of heading into December of 2023, where every single year I go for regular physicals every single year. I've done that for well over a decade, and that was where the journey with cancer would begin.
Yeah. What an accomplishment. What a life that you have had and you are currently living. I want to make sure we talk about that. And I want everyone to know that cancer does not define you. It is a chapter in the book, but it is not the entire story. And so I love what you have accomplished. And for us, we benefit from that. And what I heard you say is your faith and your spirituality is something that you've carried all your entire life. And so coming up in 2023, when you get this diagnosis, what is your thought process at that point when the doctor comes back to you with the news?
Sure. I can be 100% honest with you. When I went to my urologist, and after having my doctors notice that my PSA levels were off and everything, and then sending me to a urologist, and at that space, when they said, "Hey, we want to take some scans," I never imagined that this was something that was going to come out of my doctor's mouth. You have cancer. So I was there by myself. I wasn't expecting a diagnosis. I wasn't there with my wife. I normally don't go to those scheduled blood tests and checkups and yearly physicals. I go by myself. And so when I went there and I sat with him and he shared, yeah, we see some things. And the good news is it's treatable. Bad news is it is cancer, but the good news is it's treatable. I think that was a very difficult thing to navigate. I think that when it comes to faith in that space, I believe that when people are faced with the most difficult situations, I think they either can run to God or run from Him. And I think that in the space of when some people may use their faith as a last resort, and I use faith as a first response. And when I first heard my doctor say it's cancer, I think immediately, I cannot speak for most men. I can't speak for any other men. But for me, the difference was when those words came out of his mouth, I thought spiritually, I got to take every thought captive because whatever a man thinks, so is he. I believe that the word of God it's accurate and it works in the physical, natural world. And so when he said to me, Montell, bad news is it's cancer. The good news is it's very early first stage and it's treatable. My initial thought when he said it's cancer is I said, this is not going to kill me. This is not going to kill me. And so I think that mindset for me is the thing that kind of solidified how I would take this entire battle that would happen over the next 2 years. It would be in a space of where I had I stood 10 toes down on you gave me a diagnosis and I don't want to negate what the medical community says. And two things can be true at the same time. And so, yes, it's cancer. And no, it's not going to kill me, is the stance that I took in that process.
Yes. Yeah, and that perspective is important. And what you thought, Montel, is what a lot of us think out here because we don't know much about cancer as we probably should because it's more and more common these days. But the thought is, I have cancer. Am I going to die? And so that right away you went with cancer and death. This is not going to kill me. And
Right.
not all cancers, right, Montel?
That's
Not all cancers is a death sentence. That we have that right away, Montel. We have that. So how did you at that point begin to talk to your family and decide what you were going to do? Because and yeah, let's answer that first. How did you tell your family and decide what you were going to do?
first thing I had to do was I had to tell my wife. And I think that there's no really, there's not a specific or written rule or way that you tell somebody they're about to become a caregiver for you in the journey that you're about to take on. So I have the greatest respect, not only for my wife, but for any spouse or significant other that is navigating the care of a loved one that gets a diagnosis. That's something that's extremely difficult. And if I'm honest, I don't know if me and my wife did it the right way. We know that we held it very tightly to ourselves initially. I think the first 4 to 5 months of getting that diagnosis, it was just she and I. And we had a doctor friend that was trusted that gave us direction to go to Mayo Clinic in Minneapolis and Keck Medical out in Los Angeles. We started researching, vetting, treatments, what most people outside of have. I got initiated into this club that I never wanted to be in. The You Got Cancer Club wasn't something that I ever thought. So I never thought about cancer because cancer had never thought about me, at least in my mind, it hadn't. And so once I get the diagnosis, my wife and I, we basically hold that information and we just start vetting treatments and vetting resources that were available to us for the outside world. And I'm sure that your people are familiar with normally when someone is diagnosed, they are given four options based on where they are in the stages of how early or late they get a diagnosis. At least what was given to me was you can watch it, you can treat it, you can radiate it, or you can remove it. Those were the options I was given. You can watch it and see what it does, active observation. Or you could try one of the treatments. There's the seeds, there's the protons, we can freeze it, we can heat it up, we can HIFU it, we can do all these different things to try and treat it. We can radiate it, meaning you can do some form of either photon or proton therapy, or you can have it removed. And so we initially spent that time, Kenny, choosing what we thought would be the best course of action for me, being 50, 54 years old or 54 years young and wanting to have a good quality of life, wanting to be able to get not by this or over this, but to get through it. And so initially, my wife and I held the information, and then eventually we told our oldest son and daughter, who then said, you have to tell all the other kids. And then we told the other kids, and then we told my 11-year-old daughter. And by the way, there was no handbook for me to know how do you tell, if you're a dad, how do you tell an 11-year-old that you have cancer? There was no handbook for me that said, how do you call your mom and tell your mom you got diagnosed with cancer? And so we started documenting everything from the time that I got diagnosed, probably the 2 days afterwards. We felt like the Lord said, I need you to document every tear, every cry, every shaking of the fist, every insecurity, every fear, every triumph, film it all. And so that was the journey that we started with just me and my wife, and then eventually finding ways to let other family members and close friends and prayer people into that very tiny space where you want everybody believing the same thing. There was no room for doubt in that circle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And shout out to the caregivers. I always say that we make sure we honor them and we recognize them because there's a lot going on there and they don't get that exposure. And because obviously the patient is in the forefront, but we know that without them, how do we function and move the way we do? So shout out to your wife. Shout out to Mrs. Jordan for being able to really hold it down.
Yes,
And you're
sir.
absolutely right. Go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. One, and my wife is a G. Like
Yeah.
she was a boss in this thing, and her prayers sustained us through some of the really difficult times of this journey. This was the most difficult time in our lives, and we've had some difficult times. We've had bankruptcy in the past. We've lost a child in the past. We've had a house fire in the past. This is top three all-time greatest battles that we've ever had to face. But to the caregivers out there, I recognize I'm walking in the lives of people right now who are navigating situations that were even more dire or worse than ours. And that caregiver thing, man, it's relentless. It does not let up. And you have to be a very special, especially graced human to be able to navigate that space of helping someone in that. And let me just share this real quick because one of the things that my wife and I learned in me sharing with her and her becoming a caregiver, the way I think that allowed her that may be extremely helpful to any caregivers who are watching this or somebody who maybe has been diagnosed or who's navigating an illness or sickness or disease right now, and you're not certain how to walk alongside of your caregiver if you don't want to share too much or you don't want to put too much on them or you're afraid to share it. What I learned was I can do hard things. I can't do hard things alone. And my journey has been I don't need anyone else in my life to carry cancer. I need them to carry me. And when you free a person, I don't need my wife to carry cancer. I carried cancer. I need you to help carry me. And when they can make that distinction that they don't have the disease, but they can be helpful and responsible to help me navigating the disease, that's where it's freeing for people to be able to feel and know you're not, because cancer is tricky because there's a cancer that happens internally and then there's a cancer that happens externally. And I'm not talking about the part of cancer that some people have physical that you can see it. I'm saying the cancer that's not even a part of what I'm dealing with, but that tries to eat away at relationships and eat away at marriages and eat away at intimacy. It feeds on cells, whether it's cellular internally or it's cellular externally. It wants to eat and it wants to feed on anything that it can sink its teeth into. And so, from that standpoint, part of helping our caregivers know how to be strengthened and encouraged is knowing if you are helping someone who's navigating the disease, you don't have the disease, but you may have taken on the responsibility of helping that person get through the disease. And when you're able to make that distinction, it helps you fight longer and stronger in that journey because they don't need you to carry the disease too. They need you to carry them.
Love that. Very deep, very deep. And Montell, we see a lot of that here at All Talk Oncology, where the relationship, the cancer starts to eat away at the relationship. And you touched that. I love it. And if we can somehow separate that, and it's difficult, Montell, because what I've heard and listened to in this talk is that when their spouse had cancer, it was as if they had cancer. You know what I mean? And it's like two become one. That's what happens when you get married. That's a spiritual thing. Two become one. So you feel that even though you mentioned you don't have it. So what would you say that has helped you and your family to be able to separate that? Because I think a lot of people want to know.
Yeah. I think what helped my entire family navigate this, and once again, it may be helpful to families out there who may be navigating this, is the ability to move from passive sympathy to active empathy. And here's what
Explain.
that means.
Yes.
Um, Apathy means I feel nothing. Sympathy means I feel for you. Empathy says I feel with you. And so when faced with a diagnosis, if it doesn't matter to you, if you hear somebody on the news got diagnosed with something and it doesn't involve you, you have an apathetic response. Oh, did you hear about that? Wow. But it doesn't involve you, so it doesn't matter. That's apathy. If you happen to know the person, if somebody's not necessarily close to me, but they hear Montell Jordan got cancer, it could be like, oh, that's terrible. I feel really bad for him. That's sympathy. You feel something, but there's no investment in that feeling. Empathy is not a passive sympathy, but it is an active, not just I feel for you, but I feel with you. When I heard that, like that hurt me too. And when people are able to walk in active empathy, what it does not desensitize you from something, it doesn't disassociate you from it, and doesn't mean you have to carry it either. It's the same thing with things that happen all across the nation or with different things that are happening racially or things that just happen in our world. We tend to detach ourselves from it and move into the apathy or even sympathy. Oh, that's really bad that happened. Or a school got shot up. Oh, that's terrible. It's like you can detach yourself from it. Whereas active empathy says, even though it didn't happen to my kid and it didn't happen at a school that I'm familiar with, it didn't even happen to me, it happened. And because it happened, I care that it happened and I feel something. And I don't even have to feel the death of it to feel that other people are hurting and navigating that. And so it's okay for my kids to feel that dad is going through a tough time, and it hurts them that dad is going through a tough time. It hurts that my spouse is going through a tough time. It hurts that maybe our intimacy has taken a new direction in this particular season. All of this, it's difficult and it hurts, but at the same breath, facing it is, I think, the key to not trying to go around it or go over it. I think that's the key to getting through it because it doesn't take the fear away, but what it does is it allows you to face it and it allows you to get through it. And that's the best I can give to someone that is trying to navigate how do I get through this? I think if you want to get through it, if you get around it, it's still there. You just went around it. If you get over it, you can get over it, but it's still there. And ultimately, we didn't want to get around it or over it. We wanted to get through it. And getting through it required all of us to take the position of active empathy that I don't have to carry the disease. I don't have to know what pain is there, but it doesn't mean I can't empathize with the person that's feeling what they're feeling and be able to say, no, oh, I understand you. I understand what you're going through. No, you don't have to say that. It's just, I see you're hurting and I hurt too. And I'm here with you. That's the space right there that makes all the difference in the world. Because sometimes you don't know what to say. When I got a friend that's navigating breast cancer at that time, I didn't have to say, "Oh, I know what you're going through." I don't know what you're going through because every cancer is different and every person is different and every response is different. But when I find out that she got a diagnosis, I can know things about that because I have been through that. And I don't want to equate my journey with yours. And what I can do is I can say, man, I feel for you. And however you're navigating this, I just want you to know I am here. I'm present. I'm here. And I
Yes,
think that's the space that some people don't know how to step into without feeling like they're overstepping into something that could potentially give them more of a burden that they don't want to carry.
for sure. Mondale, listen, man, you are deep. And I love that because this is what we talk about here. We talk about the mindset and how to get through these things. There's a lot of relationships that suffer because of this. And for you to be vulnerable enough to come in here and talk about it and let us know, hey, these things are real. And this is how you get through this. And this is how your relationship becomes so much stronger after going through something like this together, when you can empathize and support in a way that both of you feel the love and you feel supported. So Montell, here you go. You get through this, you tell the family, you finish, we ring in that bell, we get through this treatment. And did you elect radiation? Did you elect surgery in the first go around?
First go around, which is interesting, is we never rang the bell at the end of that first go around. I had a radical prostatectomy surgery. I had my prostate removed on November 5th, 2024. And at that time, which was originally diagnosed as early first stage prostate cancer, Gleason 6. After my prostate was removed and they biopsied it, they saw it was an actual later stage 2 more aggressive cancer. So from the time I was diagnosed until 9 months later, when I actually had the prostate removed, my genomic testing that came back that said it potentially had a peritoneal invasion, meaning that it can move a lot faster and quicker if it's agitated. That's what was happening probably with my prostate and the journey that I had with cancer. And so even after having my prostate removed, my PSA levels, prostate specific antigen level did not completely go back down to zero. It went to a 1.7. And from that standpoint, I was questioning, why didn't it go down to zero? I don't have a prostate anymore. And they said,
Mm-hmm.
well, your body's been producing proteins and stuff like that for 50 something years. And so maybe it will decrease over time. And so I let a month go by and it went from 1.7 to 1.5. And I was like, oh, okay, then maybe that's how that will happen in my body, but it did not happen that way. And it was probably several months that it just stayed around 1.5, 1.4. It just stayed there. And we believed that we had gotten it all. We believed that we were moving forward with life. And then it wasn't until I think about 9 months later in late August of 2025 that I went back for a 6 month checkup. And when I'm there, this is when they said, hey, we've detected more cancer in your left lymph node and in your prostate bed. And at that point, this is right before Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. I'm about to go on Good Morning America, and I'm about to be on national television as a spokesman for Zero Prostate and talk about prostate cancer and beating it. And I'm literally had just gotten a diagnosis a week before that I have to go back through more treatment. So I got to tell the story about my journey of prostate cancer, not from the other side of it, but I was introducing myself to the world with cancer in the midst of the cancer journey, which is what led to then doing the proton therapy treatments that took place October and November of 2025. That was 37 rounds, 5 days a week, going in for 7.5 weeks to do that procedure. And that was mentally, that was brutal. I don't have a better way to say it. Just mentally, even more than physically, it was just mentally brutal to navigate that journey.
Yes. And I want to talk about that, Montell, because you mentioned you didn't ring the bell, but we get through this point in our minds. We say, okay, we're going to beat this. That's what you had said in the beginning. I'm not going to allow this to take me. And so you go through these treatments and you do the things that you elected to do. We have the surgery, and then this thing comes back again. How do you adjust mentally? I want everyone to know just because you have a reoccurrence doesn't mean that is a death sentence. I need you to know that. I've known so many people that have gone to live successful lives after having a reoccurrence. But initially, when you do have that reoccurrence, how did that affect you mentally?
Yeah, I would go once again and I will say that whatever a man or woman thinks, so is he. That's what they become. And so, upon hearing the news that it was either back or that they didn't get it all or that some had been dormant, it was super frustrating. Keep it 100, it was devastating to be able to know when you think you're in the all clear and then you find out, okay, this thing, it's got about as much fight as I have. I'm a fighter and it's a fighter too. So from that standpoint, once again, at least the to my faith walk, that even in that journey of getting the news again, as frustrating as it was, more so, I got to prepare my family for another fight with this. It wasn't, oh, maybe this time it's gonna kill. Like that never crossed my mind. It has never crossed my mind that this is the thing that takes me out. And so the frustrating part was, man, how do I go back and tell my 11-year-old that we thought, we took the prostate out, dad's recovered from it, and now we're just getting back to a new normal, and now I got to fight this thing again. Okay, we got to tighten the family up and bring them together and let them know, listen, dad is not fearful of his life. I may be fearful for the quality of my life and not knowing what this becomes. I will say transparently, after my radical prostatectomy back in November of 2024, about 4 weeks and 3 days afterward, we believe because of our faith walk, God restored intimacy between me and Mrs. Kristen, and not in a different way, but in the way that was prior there. Different things that you have to be able to be more conscious of in the journey, but still God restored everything in that. And so we now going through okay, we're going to do the proton therapy, that journey, when you're taking medications, the Orgovix that I had to take, that was the testosterone blocker that needed to take place in order for the therapy, the laser therapy, to be able to work. having the hot flashes, having the muscle aches and things like that. There were things that come along with that journey, but they were things that I accepted from the standpoint of I'll accept this before I accept cancer taking me out. And the mindset once again is was always this is not the thing that takes me out. My story isn't Montell Jordan dies of cancer. It's just that's just not gonna be my story.
Yeah.
And because I was resolute in that, it allowed me to be able to fight differently and to fight in a place of prayer, to fight in a place of bringing even more people on board to pray and to believe and to trust God for Him being a healer in my life. And that it didn't have to be one thing, meaning it didn't have to just be medicine that healed me. And it didn't just have to be a miracle that healed me. I believe God and medicine and holistic care and all the things that I did and am doing to this day all contribute to God getting the glory for my life. And at the same breath, all of these things are working together for me to be able to remain healthy and to remain undetected, which, as of a couple of weeks ago, I think it was in May, early May, I went in for a 6 month follow up, and PSA is at 0.01, still undetected. We're trying to be undetected for life, Kenny. That's the goal.
Yes. I love that. I love it. I love your mindset. I love the way you didn't even take you didn't even take it on for yourself. You thought right away, my family. How are we going to deal with this with my family? And that's what a leader does, is the head of the household. And that's you being able to think about those who are under you, who are watching you, who care about you. So I love that. And I love that the PSA is still at the point zero. I love that. Now, when you first got diagnosed, what was the PSA that they gave you? You told me it was a Gleason 6, but your PSA, what was that?
At the time when I was diagnosed, the PSA was at 6.7. And
Yeah.
that was in, it actually was like 6.7 when I first went and got checked. It was like, hey, this is like elevated. Before it was like, and even understanding, man, as an African American man, probably when it was at 4, that should have rung the alarm. And somehow it got over 6, and it was like nobody really says anything until it's over 6. So I'm telling you, if you're an African American man or brown person, if you are anywhere near 4, you need to be able to start monitoring that thing way ahead of time. So me, it was like 6.7, and then it was like, oh, have you had sex like the past couple of days? Like, this is elevated, this or that. And I was like, yeah, maybe a couple of days ago. So they waited a couple of weeks, and I went back, and then it was like 6.5. And I was like, but no, it still shouldn't be that high. And so literally I made eating changes. I made workout changes all that year of 2025 as I was preparing for God to either do a miracle or preparing for the radical prostatectomy surgery. And by the time I got to time a week before my surgery, I went in for a physical, you check and make sure everything was good. And at my physical, it had gone from a 6.7 to a 7.9 just in that amount of time. So that's why we elected to go ahead and do the radical prostatectomy surgery.
For sure. And then for all those listening out there, I want to tell you this. Look, we know our numbers, right? If I asked you what's Kobe's phone, what's Kobe's number, you're going to tell me. If I ask you what's Jordan's number, you know those numbers.
That's right.
But if I start to ask you what is your PSA, do you know those numbers? See, we need to get to know those numbers the same way we know these sports figures numbers, because it's our health. Take initiative and get involved with what's going on with you, because we need you and the people around you need you. So find out what your PSA is. Get that screening. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I want to wrap this up in the sense of this journey. So you finish this up and you get your proton therapy. What has life been like now for Montell Jordan? And when I say now, in comparison to your mindset before the diagnosis, in comparison to now that you've gone through something like this, what is life like for you now?
Yeah, I'm battle tested, that's for sure. I'm a different guy. because I view time differently now. I view eternity differently now, which to me forever was off in the distance somewhere. And when you are faced with a diagnosis, it causes you to be able to look at the things in life, your loved ones, your family, your legacy, and what you want that to be. And so that definitely has been at the forefront of my mind. As far as who I am now, I am far more thoughtful. I think I'm more mindful of how I spend my time because that's one of my love languages, time. And with that, I'm more grateful, I think, to God that even my story is different from a lot of men's stories that have navigated with prostate cancer. I went through, I'm now a two-time survivor, and I still have been blessed by God to have intimacy with my wife. That's not everybody's story, and I understand that. And I would say, man, please keep the faith and do what you need to do as husbands and wives to really work towards doing things to either enhance intimacy or find different ways to be able to stay connected. If that's a big part of how you connect with your spouse, I've been blessed to be able to have that sustained in our relationship. And I think it's something we ask God for. And I cannot diminish how much our faith walk has played in what we are living out right now in everyday life. Our lives right now are a reflection of our prayer life. And we believed that the scripture that says, "You shall recover all," we believe all means all. And we did that campaign, and the people around us came around us. And even when the medical profession may say, you may have this or you may have a loss of this, and I don't discount diagnosis, I think they're very helpful. And two things can be true at the same time. And we have found that, yeah, somebody can have those symptoms and everything that God promised me has been restored. And so that's my journey that I would hope would give hope to someone else to pray and believe and stand on the word of God that in addition to the medical professional diagnosis and advice and counsel and the holistic changes that one can make of what they eat and what they drink and what they abstain from, all of those things, they all count, man. They all matter. They all work together. And with faith, I think it's like a Molotov cocktail. It's like this combined spiritual thing that's put together with the medical, the spiritual, the holistic, that it sets a fire in you to be able to sustain life in a way that you know you're alive right now.
Yes. And I love that. And for those that say, why does he continue talking about intimacy? For those that don't know anything about the prostate, has a lot to do with either male erection and things like that. So it's very sensitive when you, a lot of times you have surgery, it may not work. You may lose that ability to have an erection. So to be able to sit here and he's talking about intimacy, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And to be able to still have the full erection and be able to have intimacy is important because it's also not about him either. He has a significant other. You have a wife and you have a partner. All of these things are important. And I'd say that that's the reason why we need to have an episode about relationships dealing with cancer. It's huge. And sometimes it doesn't get talked about. People go around it, or what you say, Montell, they go over it, but they don't go through it.
Through it.
So
Yeah.
love.
And if I could even maybe just say this as well, part of the deterrent of men going to get checkups and physicals or whatever is the whole stigma of the finger check or the anal rectal check and everything. And I want to encourage brothers out there and men out there. They don't, that's not even the premier way of checking people now. That form of checking is almost obsolete at this point. And as a doctor, you'd be able to lean, as my cancer guy, you'd be able to lean into that. But it can be done. The most accurate way of determining a PSA now is done through a blood test. If you go and you have a blood test, nobody got to put their fingers in you anymore. You can get a blood test. But when you go get a blood test, you have to ask for a PSA test because if you don't ask for it, they're not going to give it to you because as much as it is, prostate cancer is the most treatable form of cancer when caught early. And most people don't know that, and they don't know to ask for it. Even if they don't go and get a physical, they don't ask for it. You need to have in that space of knowing that you have the opportunity, you have the responsibility, you have the mandate that when you go to have yourself checked, just ask for them to say, hey, I want to get a PSA test. It's nothing different. They just take blood in the same way they normally take blood. They take a little extra vial and they do it to be able to run your PSAs.
Listen to the advocate. You listen to them. Ask for it. Ask and you shall receive. And they say, as you we know, closed mouths don't get fed. That's what they say.
Right.
So you need to be able to speak up. And how can you speak up if you don't know about it? Things like this. It's Montell out here advocating. It's shows like this, podcasts like this. But Montell, I want to shift a little bit because you not only are thriving right now, I see you, you're thriving, you've gone through, you battle tested, but that doesn't end there. You've been working on some things here. You talk to us a little bit about some of the things you've been working on. You talked to me earlier about a documentary. Shed some light on that for us.
Yeah, the documentary is called Sustain. You can look it up on Instagram at Sustain the Movie, or you can go to our website, sustainthemovie.com, to be a part of what this film is. It's a documentary film. Currently, it's just underneath 2 hours. We're finishing it right now and are looking for partners to be able to help us get this thing to film festivals and eventually get it to its distribution platform. But it is the story of our journey with cancer and everything that I've been talking to you about today. It's that in detail, but it's from the life of a person that's battling cancer and going out and working and doing the things I do as an entertainer to pay for the documentary to tell about my story with cancer. It is a little bit of insanity in that I could have been someplace else sitting and trying to figure out how to navigate it, but we just started filming and didn't stop life to be able to tell the story for somebody else to be able to know how to navigate. So if you want to know how I told my 11-year-old daughter, it may not be how you tell your kids, but it's GPS. It'll get you in the ballpark of knowing the right things to be able to say or the wrong things to not to not say. But that's what my life's work is headed towards right now. This movie, Sustain. And also, I have new music out right now with Renee Spearman and Kim Burrell, a song called You Chose Me, which is a great worship song. Some of you may need some good worship music as you're navigating your journey. And this is the type of song that I think would inspire you. And then the last thing I think we're working on right now is my wife is releasing a children's book called Shiloh and the Not So Scary Girl Above His Bed. And it is releasing on September the 1st. And it is a story about a little monster who lives underneath a bed and he thinks there's a little girl who lives above his bed. And it just basically takes fear and it flips it on its side from the story of the thing that we're most afraid of actually can be afraid of us.
I love that because they always say on the other side of fear is where the blessing is at. And so for you to sit here and talk to us about some of the things you're doing, the doctor series, your wife is active. It's a very healthy sign, and she's writing books and things like that. And then you guys are putting on a tour together, right? Talk to a little bit about the tour that you're doing.
Yeah, what we want to do for 2026 Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, September, we're trying to do a screening at the screening. And so we want to do a This Is How We Screen It tour. We're looking to go to 10 cities. And in those 10 cities, we want to do private, small sittings where we show the film, but also make it available for men that come to see the film to have an opportunity to be screened at those screenings. And so that's the goal right now. This is not just for the documentary, but ultimately, I want to be a huge advocate for early detection, but also moving forward, part of my life's work is going to be making sure that men are mandated to go and to get screened. And I think it's super, super important for that to, your lives matters to me. We talked about lives mattering to your spouse or to your kids. I'm telling you, as Montell Jordan, your life matters to me. because I don't want to see anybody on my watch. When I've got the information I have and I have the journey that I have, I just want to be GPS to point any man or any woman that has a loved one who's a male, a husband, a son, a father, a brother, an uncle, a pastor, a nephew. I want them to know what they need to do as best they can to help save the lives of the men that they love.
Love that. This speaks volumes of just who you are. We know Montell Jordan, the artist, and we see him, but we get to see the other side now. And we get to see that Montell who is active and who's a humanitarian and wants to see the best. And what a story that you have laid out in your legacy and what you're doing. What an amazing journey. So thank you so much, Montell, for
Thank you,
joining
man.
us here on All Talk Oncology. Thank you so much for being the man who you are in front of us today.
God bless you, man. Thank you for your platform, and thank you for any man and woman that are watching this or listening to this. Please, your life matters. Early detection helped save my life, and regular screenings continue to save my life. And so it's my prayer that you would take that same initiative and go forth and be blessed.
Love that. And as I say to everyone out there, always know All Talk Oncology is a platform that we empower you through these insightful conversations so that we eliminate the uncertainty that goes through this. And always remember, you're not alone in this. We're in this together. This is Kenny Perkins, aka your cancer guy. And until again, I'm out.
So stay connected with us on All Talk Oncology Cancer Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to that, right? Wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's Apple, Spotify, make sure you subscribe and continue to spread that word, right? Engage in this because your engagement can help someone stay alive. And this is what we're talking about. So again, make sure you subscribe, hit that subscribe button. Again, this is Kenny Perkins, aka your cancer guy. Until again, I'm out.